screen reading software. And today, Julius is a consultant and a trainer to high-performing IT professionals who make the internet a more accessible and inclusive place. He has performed testing and audits for the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Justice, Electoral Commission, Department of Conservation, New Zealand Transport Technology Agency, Christchurch City Council, and many others. And using a combination of education, inspiration, and a unique sense of humour, Julius has trained hundreds of people on web accessibility and assistive technology. Julius feels blessed to help and improve online accessibility, being a person who is totally blind himself. So thank you so much, Julius. It is amazing to have you with us tonight, and I've really been looking forward to your presentation, as I believe we can gain so much from your expertise and wisdom. So I'm going to hand over to you now.
Speech mode B, speech mode talk.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear,
This
Julius.
meeting is being recorded.
Wonderful.
PowerPoint.
First of all, I'd like to thank Carly, Trudy, and Kevin for the opportunity to share my experience and everything that I've learned about accessibility in this talk. This talk is going to be entitled 5 Keys to Accessible Content. And I'm going to first provide an overview of the topics that we're going to talk about.
Content September 12 about your speaker.
Before that, I would like to share a little bit about myself. My name is Julius Charles Serrano. I am an accessibility consultant.
About your speaker, Julius Charles.
The technology that you're currently hearing is called the screen reader. So we're going to hear all about that in this session that we have.
About Julius Charles.
Julius, sorry to interrupt you for a second. We have the settings menu is still up on the screen at the moment.
Oh, thanks for letting me know.
This meeting is being Microsoft Power Zoom row 1 column for clean beauty and match meeting control HP laptop start power. This meeting is Microsoft Zoom row 1 clean beauty and meeting control HP laptop PowerPoint slide. This meeting is being recorded. This is the account owner and account owner link. Got it button.
And
meeting control.
Did that solve it? No.
PowerPoint.
No,
Microsoft Zoom row 2 column 1.
Okay.
Schedule button. Wednesday. Change back. No upcoming meet. Search C tab. Zoom. Julia. Setting button.
Setting. It's supposed to be
settings window. Settings with list. General. When closed. Use dual. Enter full automatic. Always show. Learn more. Ask me to show my remind me. Stop my video. Integrate Zoom. Learn more. But reaction skin tone to view more settings.
I
Open.
That.
Mute. Currently unmuted.
Is that better?
Yes, perfect.
Wonderful.
Zoom row 1 column 2 PowerPoint slideshow dash
cool.
Bullet Julius.
So again, I'm Julius Charles Serrano. So grateful to be here. And for 15 years, I have been working in the field of accessibility, consulting, training people, helping IT professionals, business analysts, content developers, content managers, and content specialists, and front-end developers make the internet a more inclusive and accessible place to people with disabilities. I've been a presenter in local and international accessibility workshops. I've been blessed to do a couple of workshops here in New Zealand, as well as in countries such as the Philippines and Malaysia and other countries in Asia. And as Trudy has mentioned, I am a person who is totally blind. So I have that unique lived and representative experience of somebody who is actually directly affected by accessible content and who is also affected by inaccessible content. And the technology that you're hearing right now, again, is called a screen reader. So this is the software that we're going to use along with the browser as we are exploring specific examples of accessible and inaccessible content.
Overview.
What are we going to talk about tonight? We're going to answer 5 very important questions about accessibility. We're going to discuss what accessibility is, why it is important to learn about accessibility as content managers, content developers, and IT professionals,
Bullet 2.
Who will benefit from the knowledge and implementation that you have, that you will perform when it comes to
Hand guidance as
accessibility?
5:43 bullet
And
how.
how these are the 5 keys that we're going to be talking about. The how section will include the 5 keys to accessible content.
Bullet what's
And
next?
then after that, we're going to tell you what's next. After this session, what can you do right now to continue your accessibility journey?
September 20. What is web?
Let's first answer the question, what? So what is accessibility?
LVO match bullet A practice.
First of all, my friends, accessibility is a practice. It is a practice of making web content accessible to people with disabilities. When we talk about web content, we refer to HTML documents, audio, video, PDFs, spreadsheets, and any file format that can be downloaded from the internet. People with disabilities include people who are totally blind, such as myself, people with low vision, sighted people who can see, but who need to magnify stuff so that they can see it more easily. You also have people who are colorblind. You also have people who are totally deaf, people who are hard of hearing. So these are people who can hear, but not that well. You also have people with cognitive disabilities, people with learning disabilities, people with print disabilities, such as people with dyslexia, and you have people who have limited fine motor skills. These are people who cannot use the mouse because they have motor disability or a temporary injury, which prevents them from using the mouse with their hands. All of these people will benefit from accessibility.
Bullet A measurement.
Second point, accessibility is a measurement by which you can measure the accessibility, how accessible your content is. So if a web content has high accessibility, it means that more people with disabilities can access, use, and enjoy your web content. In contrast, if your content has low accessibility, it means that there's a high chance that a lot of people with disabilities, including people who do not have disabilities, will have problems accessing your content.
Bullet an initial requirement.
Next point, an initial requirement. The best thing that you can do for accessibility is to start it early. When you're in the development stage, when you're writing that exciting blog post that you have, when you're writing that email that is going to be received by hundreds, even thousands of people, that's the best time to make your content accessible while you're creating the content. Of course, you can still make content accessible, make content that has, you can still finish the content and then think about how to make it accessible. But then you're going to spend more time than you really should if you do that. So the best thing that you can do is to start it early in the project.
Bullet A quality that
accessibility is a quality that benefits everybody.
September.
So in addition to people with disabilities, people who do not have disabilities will also benefit from accessible content. One of the best examples involves video captions. Video captions, or the text equivalent that sighted people can see when they're watching the video, is mainly provided for people who are totally deaf. However, it may interest you to know that people who do not have people who do not have hearing impairment will still benefit from video captions in certain situations, such as a noisy environment. For example, if you do not have a hearing impairment and you are in a noisy environment, such as a pub on Friday nights, and you're trying to watch a video, it is going to be very helpful when you have video captions, because video captions will enable you to perceive understand, and enjoy the content, even if you're not able to hear it that well because of the noise that is taking place. Another example of accessible content that benefits people who do not have disabilities is sufficient color contrast. You know, when the color of your text has sufficient contrast with the text color of your background. More on that later. When your text has sufficient color contrast, even if you don't have any vision impairment, when you are browsing your content under sunlight, if you have your mobile device and you're trying to read it on a very fine, bright day under sunlight, sufficient color contrast is going to be very important to you. And, you know, as we have mentioned, whether you have vision impairment or not, in that specific situation, this particular accessible feature, sufficient color contrast, is going to be very beneficial.
September 20, September 8.
This, my friends, is what accessibility is. These are, you know, some of the main definitions of accessibility. And we move on to why. Why do we make content accessible after learning what?
Why make bullet more people can?
The main reason is accessible content enables you as content managers, content developers, and IT professionals, even writers, to ensure that more people can access, use, and enjoy your web content.
Bullet 24%.
24% of people in New Zealand have some form of disability. Now, I think the last time that I checked Statistics NZ, I think it is when they did the 2013 census, they identified 24%. So it may be a larger percentage right now. I'm just wondering, I'm not aware when they're going to do the next official census, but, you know, 24% is a huge part of the population.
Bullet, that's 1.
That is 1.1 million.
September 20.
And that's me.
Why
okay, so we're still on, you know, why make your content accessible?
Why make bullet currently more than 1 billion
There
people?
are currently more than 1 billion people around the world have a disability.
Bullet 15% of
That's
the world.
15% of the world's population.
Bullet $1.9 trillion.
And it may interest you to know that all around the world, people with disabilities have a total
bullet
of
$1.9
trillion in disposable income. So that's a huge market that you can tap into when you make your content accessible.
September 20.
Here are more reasons why.
Why make your bullet supports the core?
I believe that accessibility supports the core values of, you know, content management, content development, and information technology. I believe that content, as content developers, content managers, and writers, you know, sharing information for everybody, equal access to information, whether written or via photos, is one of the core values of content development. And that coincides with, you know, the principle of accessibility, information for everybody.
Bullet supports usability and search engine up.
Second point, accessibility supports usability and search engine optimizations. Accessibility is a subset of usability. So when you make your content accessible, you're going to also have positive features that are going to trickle down up to usability. There are also accessibility principles that overlap with search engine optimization. More on that later.
Bullet ensures compliance with local and
accessibility ensures compliance with local and international guidelines. Now, New Zealand has its own web accessibility standards. And it's interesting to note that the New Zealand web accessibility standards draw heavily from the international guidelines, which is the WCAG Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1. So complying with the international guidelines WCAG ensures that you also comply with the local standards of New Zealand.
Bullet promotes compatibility with web.
Next point, accessibility promotes compatibility with web technologies. So your accessible content when you make your content accessible, it means that people who use older browsers, people who are browsing the internet via slow connection will still benefit and will still access and enjoy your content.
Bullet enables you to demonstrate.
Finally, accessibility enables you to demonstrate social responsibility. So it's an opportunity for you to show your readers, your viewers, your online visitors that you took the time to understand their needs and provide content that they can enjoy, that they can contribute to, that they can share, content that potentially can change their lives.
September 2021, who benefit?
Let's talk about the people who benefit from your accessible content and how exactly they use the content, how they're able to interact with content.
Bullet people who are blind.
People who are blind. These are, people who cannot see your content, so they cannot perceive it. The main technology that they use is the screen reader. The screen reader is a software that is installed in the computer. The main output of a screen reader is a semi-human, semi-robotic voice that speaks the highlighted text on the screen. It's also interesting to note that screen readers are also used by people who have different forms of disability. Sighted people with cognitive disabilities who prefer to listen to content rather than reading it, they also prefer screen readers. People who have low vision, who would like to save their eyesight and would like to hear the content instead, they also prefer to use screen readers. I have been talking to other people who do not have disabilities, and they're starting to experience the magic of screen readers whenever they want to read/hear a specific blog post, and they're doing something else, such as working on a specific project or cooking. They simply learn how to use the screen reader, which enables them to listen to that written content. So as what we have explored, screen readers are used by people who are totally blind, as well as a huge number of users, and increasing. The number of users who are discovering the benefits of screen reader is steadily increasing.
Bullet people who have who has joined. Bullet people who have
low vision use zoom feature and screen magnification software. These are sighted people who can see, but who can't see that well. So they have to increase the font size in order to support easy reading. Magnification software, even the zoom feature, and you may have also used it yourself. These are the main software technologies being used by people with low vision.
Bullet people with hearing
impairment.
People
with hearing impairment rely heavily on captions, the text equivalents on videos, the text equivalent that contain the dialogue, the spoken parts, the audio component, as well as visual information. Now, when it comes to visual information, it refers to change of context, change of color, as well as message pop-ups. These are very helpful to people who are deaf and hard of hearing.
Bullet people with cognitive disabilities, readable and understandable text.
See, you hear that screen reader, so it's helping me out read the content, and it's also reading the content for me. People with cognitive disabilities, they rely on content that is easy to understand and easy to read.
Bullet people with cognitive disabilities, readable and understandable
So when
text.
it comes to like readable and understandable text, shorter paragraphs, shorter sentences, shorter words, and explaining what a specific term means. These are very helpful to people with cognitive disabilities.
Bullet people with motor disabilities, keyboard, speech input.
Now, finally, people with motor disabilities. These are people who have limited fine motor skills, so they cannot use the mouse. They rely on the keyboard primarily, and a specific group of people with motor disabilities also use speech recognition software. This is a particular type of application where they make use of the microphone to verbally instruct the software, the speech recognition software, to perform a specific task. For example, opening a specific word processor, dictating information inside that Word document, and accessing the menus.
September 2020. How do you
These are the people. So those are the people that benefit from accessible content. Let's move on to the next question. How do we make our content accessible? We have 5 keys to do that. Okay, cool.
5:59. How do you
Right.
Bullet
These are the keys to make your content accessible. Number 1,
provide
meaningful image descriptions.
Bullet use correct
HTML.
Bullet use correct HTML elements.
Use correct HTML elements.
Bullet create keyboard accessible controls.
Create keyboard accessible controls.
Bullet implement sufficient
color contrast.
Bullet ensure web forms
are accessible. We're going to talk about these ones. We're going to talk about each key one by one. Okay.
September 20. One dash bullet use.
Number 1. This is the first key. It's all about making your images accessible. So almost all of your web pages, virtually all of your web pages have some form of graphical content and images. The main point here is to understand and appreciate that not everybody is going to be able to see the images that you have on your web content. So how do we make it accessible? The best way is to provide meaningful image descriptions. The best way to do that in your source code is by using the alt attribute. The alt attribute providing an equivalent inside the alt attribute, and make sure that the alt text, that's the text that is contained inside the alt attribute, make sure that it is concise and descriptive.
Bullet alt text is short but informative.
Make sure that it's short, it's informative, and avoid image of. Now you may be wondering, Julius, why do I need to omit the part image of? I'm trying to describe it to the person using the screen reader. The main reason why we recommend to just remove the image of part is because the screen reader will already be able to identify this content as an image. Okay. Once the screen reader has read or has detected the source code having this particular tag, it is going to be able to deliver that particular information that this is a specific image. So you don't have to include image of in the alt text. Now, for here specific things that you can do for if you have interactive images. These are image links that perform a specific function. Rather than describing what the image looks like, focus on what the image does. So if you have a print icon that performs a specific action, which is to print the document, make sure that you are not describing what the printer looks like. Rather, instead just say print, because that's the function of the image link. If you have detailed images such as charts, artwork, and maps, you have two options. You can either provide a longer description, a paragraph describing the image directly below the image, or you can provide a link that takes the user to another page that contains the longer description for that detailed images. If you
Bold
have decorative
images, bold.
images such as spacers, vertical bars, horizontal bars, and any other decorative image that doesn't add any useful content to screen reader users, make sure that you're providing a null value, which is alt equals quote quote. The benefit there is screen reader users will not hear the existence of these images because they don't need it anyway. It doesn't add any context to their browsing experience. Let me now show you. Here is one of the exciting parts to actually show you
row 1 column, Microsoft PowerPoint clean beauty and
some
natural HP laptop
examples.
toolbar.
Now I'm
HP
hoping
laptop PowerPoint slot
that
Zoom Microsoft clean beauty and HP laptop start 8 meeting Zoom Microsoft clean beauty
yay.
and
Okay.
home bar
I trust that you can see the browsers on my screen. Can anybody let me know if you can?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. So my intention in showing you these examples is to show you real, actual examples of websites that demonstrate accessibility, accessible content, or the lack thereof.
From Courtney to
Okay,
everyone.
so
Thanks.
this is the web page. Okay, my intention is to navigate this page and just focus on images. We're talking about images. And these are examples of images that have
man working at cafe, browsing on his tablet.
Can you hear that? Man working on a cafe, working on his tablet, smiling. Hopefully, I have it. Can you see it on the screen?
Yes, we can see
man
the
working
image.
at cafe,
So there's a man
tablet,
working
smiling.
at a cafe.
Graphic man working at cafe,
Browsing on his
tablet,
smiling. This, my friends, is an example of an image that has been provided with image description. As you can see, I am totally blind, so I have no idea what is on the screen. But since they have provided meaningful image descriptions there, I can actually understand, perceive, and appreciate what the image contains. And I can even share it with my colleagues. Let's look at other images here.
Main landmark list with
Phone.
5 items. Phone graphic.
There's an image of a lightning bolt.
Reuse icon graphic. Person with a question mark for a face graphic.
Can you see the person with a question mark for a face?
Yes.
Nice, thank you. So this is how we
graphic person with a question mark.
As you can
for
hear,
a face.
the screen reader says graphic person with a question mark for a face. So the graphic part is the screen reader detecting on the source code that this is an image and delivering that piece of information. So rather than just reading the alt text, it tells me, first of all, this is a graphic, and this graphic contains whatever the image description has been provided by the content manager or the content editor. There's even a padlock.
Graphic. List with 2 items. Group of young professionals sitting
Group
at a cafe.
of young professionals sitting at a cafe talking. This is a web page that demonstrates image descriptions, the proper use of image descriptions. So as you can see, I'm able to understand and appreciate what the images contain because the content editor, the content manager, has provided image descriptions here. Let me show you another example. Okay, so RNZ. Okay, let me navigate to that image.
Ben Strand, close up of dried marijuana and handmade
Close
cigarette
up
and
of dried
graphic.
marijuana and handmade cigarette on ashtray. That is the image description being read by the screen reader. Hopefully you can see that image on the screen.
Yes, we can see the image.
Awesome.
Graphic close up of dried marijuana and handmade cigarette and ashtray.
Should I slow down the speech, or is it just okay?
CTSRM.
Is it too fast?
Maybe slow it down a little bit, I think. Yeah, because we're not used to it.
Yeah, I understand.
Rate fit. Graphic close up of dried marijuana and handmade
so
cigarette
that is the
and
alt
ashtray.
text being spoken by the screen reader. So as you can see, it really enhances the browsing experience of non-visual people when there are image descriptions for certain images on web pages. Let us show you another example. We're still talking about image descriptions. This is the majestic menu. Let me navigate to the menu. I believe that this is the start of the menu, and let's listen to it.
Out of list main landmark
graphic cough, COF. I'm still navigating on the menu. I believe, yes, I'm certain that I'm on the menu area.
I can see pictures of food, but I'm not sure if it's the actual menu or whether you need to click on the images of the food to find them.
Ah, cool, fair enough.
I can't tell because I can't see them.
Graphic.
Yeah, me neither. This is actually challenging because here, rather than putting a description that tells the user, the non-visual user, that these are images of food that you need to click on, instead, I'm only hearing graphic EDF. And there's another graphic here. Another graphic. So this is what it sounds like when there's supposed to be an image that sighted people can see, can understand, can perceive. But when image description has been has not been provided, or image description has been provided, but it is incomplete and poor, this is how it sounds like to a non-visual person. That one. That one.
Graphic cough.
So again, this is an example of, images that don't have image description. One last example. So this is a page containing a couple of images here. And the main issue here is that I think the developer of this website did provide
find the hypnotherapist in lower HUD graphic
image descriptions. However, the image descriptions sort of were used to actually boost search engine optimization. So rather than describing what the image looks like or deciding whether it is decorative or not, they simply provided image descriptions such as this one. I think there's at the top of the page, there's an image that has an image description which reads,
graphic find a hypnotherapist in lower HUD.
Find a hypnotherapist in lower HUD. Now, unless, I don't know, if the image actually contains the words, the actual words that say, find a hypnotherapist in lower HUD, I think that would be a descriptive image. However, I'm not sure what the image looks like. And if the image doesn't contain any text that says, find a hypnotherapist in lower HUD, I don't think that this is proper image description right here. Can you help me identify?
Yeah, it doesn't say that. It says it looks like hypnotherapy, something your solution, because there's a pop-up that's popped up and is sitting over the image. So maybe this is another example of accessibility when it comes to pop-ups. So it's popped up over the image. So from what I can tell, the words on the image say hypnotherapy must be is your maybe solution to living a better and healthier life. That's the
wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it's nothing like what was on the screen reader.
It's completely different. So that's a huge
and it is
issue.
a decorative image because the image itself has got nothing to do with hypnotherapy. It's a scene of water and land, you know, very nice, but isn't really showing anything to do with hypnotherapy at all.
Yeah. So as you can see, it's one thing to actually put alt text. It's an entirely different thing to put alt text that is meaningful, that actually benefits the non-visual person who really needs image descriptions.
Online
now,
HP laptop.
Let me
back buttons. HP laptop. On PowerPoint
move on
slide
to
show
the. So wrapping up, then first key is all about image descriptions. We are doing this for blind people who cannot see the screen, who cannot read content, who cannot perceive the images. Providing image descriptions is going to be really, really helpful to them.
1-3 dash create keyboard slide 2 dash
Number
from
2,
218
okay.
2 dash use correct
Number 2 is all about making sure that you're following correct HTML standards. So this means that when you have headings, make sure that you're using the correct heading tags. When you have lists, make sure that you're using the correct list tags. The reason behind that is because people who use screen readers rely on correct HTML semantics to be able to understand the structure, to be able to form the info and relationships between content.
Bullet use
So
tags
very important, if you have headings, please do use correct H tags, either H1, H2, H3, 4, 5, 6. Number 2, if you have headings, as much as you can, please make sure that you're following the correct heading hierarchy. If you have a page that has heading level 1, make sure that the headings that immediately follow that heading level 1 is a heading level 2. Don't skip headings. It is going to be very, very helpful to people using screen readers if you follow the correct heading hierarchy. If you have paragraphs that you want to emphasize, rather than using headings, please use the correct tag, such as strong or EM. And as we've mentioned, if you have lists on your web page, make sure that you're using the correct list tags. Avoid indenting content to make them look like lists. Instead, please do use correct list tags, either ordered lists or unordered lists, and make sure that each list item has been tagged with the correct list item tag.
6
All right.
15
let me show you some samples.
Online services.
We're talking about correct HTML semantics, and let me show you some examples. On this page,
Scan link walk button menu.
I'm hoping that is there no pop-up that blocks the main content?
There's no pop-up on this one.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate from one heading to another. What I'm doing is I'm making use of the screen reader's shortcut keys. Now, because for blind people, it's quite a challenge whenever, especially when you have huge web pages. The screen reader provides specific shortcut keys that enable me, the user, to navigate directly to a specific type of element. And here, I'm going to use that shortcut key, particularly for the headings.
Online services.
So as you can hear, I have navigated from, I was at the top of the page. I pressed the heading shortcut key, and it navigated quickly to a heading level 1 that says online services.
Yep.
Heading level 1 online services.
Thank you. Yep. So that's so as you can hear, the screen reader, number 1, identifies the type of element, identifies that if it is a heading, it identifies the heading level of that heading, and then it identifies the actual text associated with that heading. Let's continue navigating. I'm going to press the H.
Key tasks, heading level 2.
Okay. Let's move on.
Graphic.
So that's I can perceive that there's a heading level 2 that says key tasks.
Motor vehicles heading level 2 link.
So I can hear a motor vehicles heading level 2. Hopefully you can also see that.
Yes, we can see that.
And I'm going to press another. I'm going to move to the next heading.
Road user charges left parent, RUC right parent, heading
road
level
user
2
charges, and I'm going to move to the next content.
Driver licensing.
Driver licensing. So just I hope you can see how easy it is for me to navigate from one section of information to another. It's all because the content editor has used the correct heading tags here. Because the content editor has used correct HTML semantics, I'm able to use the heading shortcut keys that are included in the screen reader software. Now, just imagine if these headings weren't tagged properly. As a result, I won't be able to use the heading shortcut. As a result, I would have to press the down arrow multiple times, even 100 times, just to be able to move from one content to another. This is a page that demonstrates good HTML semantics. Now, before we move on to the next example, I am going to show you the specific elements under this particular section, driver licensing.
List out of list link heading level 2
So
driver
I press the
licensing.
down arrow key because I want to explore the contents under this particular service.
List with 6 items. Link book a practical driver license test. Link change or cancel your practical driver license test. Link apply for a link replacement driver
Okay,
license
it's reading a
card
lot of
using
things, but at the start of that particular content, you may have heard list of 6 items. Let's
link out list with 6 items. Link book a practical driver
list
license
with
test.
6
Link
items, and then the first one is book a practical driver's license test or something like that.
Yes.
That is an example of a properly tagged list. Now, it's really helpful because since the list uses a correct HTML semantics, the screen reader is going to provide very helpful
Eddie left
information
Sparks it.
involving the list, the
Ian
number
Law has
of
left the
items
meet.
on this list, as well as the first item on the list.
PowerPoint September bullet use 3-3- create
Now
keyboard dash
we
accessible.
move on to the next example, the next key rather, which is all about creating keyboard accessible content. Okay.
Online.
Before that, but because we still have
Department
okay, we still
discover.
have before moving to the third key, let's show you an example here. We're still talking about headings and heading tags. So this is a
Visited.
very interesting example on this page. And so you see that particular web page right there.
Yes.
If I try to navigate to any heading on the page,
No
the
next
screen
heading.
reader says no next heading. Now, as sighted people, if you do a quick look at this particular web page, you may notice that there are, in fact, headings on this page. There are texts that are serving the function of a heading. However, since these texts weren't tagged with the correct H tag, the screen reader will not be able to detect the existence of these headings. So the
No
screen
next
reader
heading.
will not be able to enable me to move to any of these headings. I won't be able to use the heading shortcut key. As a result, I would need to press the down arrow multiple times just
Out
to
of
be
list
able to
see on next.
understand the structure of this particular web page. This is an example of a web page that has headings that weren't tagged properly. As a result, I can't perceive any headings on this page.
Julius,
Yes,
it's
yep.
it's Carly here. This is particularly horrifying for Trudy and I because we both used to work for Datacom.
There you go.
So, but we had nothing to do with the build of the website, I'd just like to say.
Awesome. Yep. Awesome. Third key. It's all about understanding the needs of people who cannot use the mouse. There are lots of people who are blind who use screen readers cannot use the mouse. People who are sighted who have temporary injury cannot use the mouse. People who have limited fine motor skills cannot use the mouse. So make sure that all of your content is accessible via the keyboard.
Bullet used from QAT to 3 bullet
Make
used
sure
tab to navigate.
that all of your interactive elements can be accessed using the tab key. make sure that all of your interactive elements can be activated by either pressing the space bar or the enter key. Quick tip:
Bullet tip:
if you have developed your content while you're developing the content, especially when their content has a lot of interactive elements such as drop downs and combo boxes, unplug the mouse and use the keyboard. Try to make sure that you can access and activate all of your interactive elements. Just to clarify, interactive elements include links, buttons, radio buttons, check boxes, combo boxes, input fields, buttons, drop downs, as well as select boxes. So let us show you some examples. We're talking about keyboard accessibility in this particular key.
Out of form edit required.
Let me show you a contact form for Kiwi Wealth, and let's explore this together. Let us test this web page together. So I'm at the start of the form. I'm going to press the tab key.
Edit required, invalid entry.
Edit required.
Edit required.
I'm hoping that there's keyboard focus so that you can follow the specific element that I'm currently focused on.
Edit
I'm just pressing the tab key.
Combo box. Are you
pressing the tab
combo
key?
Box. Edit
Pressing the
required,
tab
invalid
key.
entry. Multi-line message from Trudy.
Okay, so right now I believe that I'm in the message input field. Here is where it becomes interesting. If I press the tab key,
submit button,
I move from the message field to the submit button. I move from the message field to the submit button. Now, for a non-sighted person, I will not be able to perceive if that is really the case. For sighted people, you can actually see that there's a specific element that is in between the message input field and the submit button.
Shivi Sivasubram.
Right?
Yes.
There is a specific I don't know what that is. I think this it's a radio button of some sort.
Yeah, it's a radio button that
Yep.
allows you to sign up for email.
Yes,
updates.
exactly. Thank you.
Edit required.
So this that radio button is an example of interactive element that is not keyboard accessible. A lot of these things you can discover if you started to unplug the mouse and just explore the web content that you have.
Clean beauty.
Let me show you another example. Let me just have a quick drink of water for. Good. We're still talking about keyboard accessible content. Second example is all about the Health Post website.
Clean beauty.
So at the home page, I am going to.
We're upper X.
Let me just close that.
Link 100.
Okay. So
Health
the
link
main issue here
Health poster. Health post and
is
navigation landmark list with three items. Cart dash icon. Search edit.
I think the sign in / log on sign up. There's a specific element that is very, very important. That if we use the keyboard
button blank banner TNC's of 210,000 banner link help visited navigate help and support elapsed links out of list with three items sign in /
that one
out of list with focus.
So sign in / join is not keyboard accessible. So if we, for example, tab through all of the content there, if you use the tab key to try to navigate through all of the content, you can access virtually everything, except one of the things that you cannot access using the tab key is sign in / join.
Search list link collapsed. List select currency.
So I'm at the select currency element.
Health post and Z. Health post navigate list.
If I press the tab key,
search edit as autocomplete search 5.
I land on the search input field.
Button.
There's a button there.
New link.
New
immune support link.
Immune support. So the main issue here, you can actually test it yourself. If you go to healthpost.co.nz,
From
and
Trudy
you try to
Evans
press the tab
everyone.
key, you're going to discover that pressing the tab key will not enable you to access sign in / join, one of the elements there that you have on this web page. How do you, I mean, for the previous example and for this one, how do you make this accessible? First of all, being aware of the existence of inaccessible keyboard controls is the first thing. So unplugging the mouse and doing a quick check. And the next thing that you can do is to identify which among the elements, the interactive elements, are not keyboard accessible, and just try to use native HTML elements. Because if you use native HTML elements, you're going to make sure, you're going to be able to ensure that they are keyboard accessible.
Power HP laptop.
All right.
Power September 2020. 4-implement.
Fourth key. So implement
4-implement
sufficient color contrast.
From
This is
280 to
all about making sure that the color of your text is dark enough and the color of your background is light enough, making sure that as much as possible, there's a huge contrast between the color of your text and the color of your background.
bullet dark text.
If you were to use dark background, make sure that your text is as light as possible. Basically, please avoid light gray text on dark gray background. That is very problematic to people who have low vision.
Bullet light text on bullet use color.
Some of the tools that you can use, okay? One of the commonly asked questions, some of the tools that you can use involve contrast checkers, such as the one by WebAIM. So there's a website called WebAIM that has a specific contrast checker that you can use.
HP meeting control. Zoom row 1 Wednesday has left the meeting. Micro H meeting. Zoom row Microsoft PowerPoint.
Okay,
HP
cool.
lab meeting
So
control.
just a few
Zoom
examples.
row 1 Microsoft PowerPoint slideshow.
A person who has low vision
HP
has told me that this particular
Your
website
internet connection is
has,
unstable.
you know, a
Store the link.
lot of color contrast issues. It actually made her headache looking at these colors. And, you know, this is, I'm just showing you an example of a web page that, you know, has a lot of contrast issues.
Priya K has
And
left the
for sighted people, if you find that the color, the contrast, the color combination is a little bit off for a sighted person who doesn't have any visual impairment, it's
From
going to
receipt.
be twice or 3 times much more difficult for somebody who has low vision. Let me show you another example. Wellington Phoenix. Can you confirm that they
Home
still
from
have the
6:30
main
PM.
navigation containing
Season and
yellow
stats.
text on white background?
Revi from
Yeah, that's right. It's
Yes.
very hard to read.
Cams.
Yes, this is an example. The main navigation in particular
Proceed.
of Wellington Phoenix is an example of
Effect.
color contrast that is very inefficient and very, very insufficient and very
Revi's.
hard to read. Please avoid
Window.
yellow text on white
Sam.
background. Just confirming that is yellow background
Sa-
on white text, right?
Yes,
Effect.
that's right.
Yep. Please avoid things like those.
Season and Revi's part. E-base. Micro. Slide 1 left. E-PowerPoints. Bullet.
The last key. Forms are very
4-implement,
important, especially for, you know, asking for information and enabling people to contribute to your content. So make sure that your web forms are accessible.
Bullet
The
use.
best things to do is
Parent
to
has
make
left.
sure that the label of any interactive element, such as an input field, is programmatically associated. To do that, when you're working on source code, make sure that you're using the for attribute, FOR. The for attribute is a specific piece of source code that establishes the relationship between the label and the actual input field. So if, for instance, you have a form containing a label the first name, and then you have an input field for that particular label, which is the input field for the first name. Using the for attribute enables you to establish the relationship between the two. You're going to hear the benefit, the main benefit, particularly for screen reader users when you use that.
Bullet ensure
Make sure that forms
follow
follow a logical sequence. If, for instance, you have a web form, try to tab through the web form and make sure that, you know, input field 1, when you press the tab key, follows, actually goes to input field 2, and, you know, and such. Issues regarding focus order will arise when there are 4 input fields. You press the tab key to the first one, you press the tab key again, and rather than landing on input field number 2, you land on input field number 4. So that is an issue regarding focus order, which is very challenging because it can be very disorienting, especially for non-visual people. Let me show you some samples. Okay, we're now talking about web forms and, you know, examples of accessible and inaccessible web forms. Let me show you the advanced search of eBay.
Main landmark form, enter focus, enter keywords or item number, edit focused, enter keywords or item number, keyword, enter keywords or item number, edit,
enter keywords or item number is the label of this input field. This is an example of an input field that has that uses the for attribute. This is an example of an input field that has been labeled properly. As a result, the screen reader speaks the label and then identifies it as an edit field. Let me move on to other elements in this form.
Keyword options, combo box, all words.
Keyword options. So you may actually see a combo box here that is labeled keyword options. This is a very, this is an example of a properly labeled input field. It speaks the label first before actually identifying it as a combo box, which is very helpful because I need to know what this combo box is for. Just imagine if the label is not associated with this combo box, I will have no idea what this combo box is for.
Exclude words from your search.
Exclude words from your search. So similar. Exclude words from your search is the label, and then the edit field, it actually identifies it as an edit field. There's a quick tip. Because one of the common questions, that's all good, Julius, but does it mean that I need to use a screen reader just to be able to test this particular accessibility principle? No. Even if without a screen reader, you can actually test it yourself. Step 1, find a web form that you want to test. Step 2, click on a label on any of the input fields on that web form. And step 3, verify if the cursor automatically lands on the input field for that label. If the cursor automatically lands on that input field, it means that the label has been programmatically associated with that input field. If that doesn't happen, if you click on the label and the cursor does not automatically land on that input field, it means that there is no programmatic association between the two. Let me show you the final example for tonight, which is the Trade Me registration form.
Edit. Focus
Let me move to the... Okay, so this is the start of the Trade Me registration form.
Form landmark. Edit blank.
Edit blank. It's not reading the label at all. Can you imagine how frustrating that is? If you're a non-sighted person and you want to register on Trade Me, if you press the tab key, you can identify these as being edit fields, as being input fields. But since the labels weren't programmatically associated with that input field, the screen reader will not be able to provide any useful information. So I don't know what this is for. I don't know what this is for. Now, as
Edit
sighted
focus
people, you can
blank.
actually see what that is for, but I don't know. I have no idea. This one, I don't
Edit
know what
blank.
this is for. This one,
Edit
I
blank.
don't know what this is for. I know that these are input fields. I don't know what to put in them.
Man
We
mail
have a
radio
man
button.
mail radio button here.
Combo box
Combo
date
box.
collapsed.
Another combo box.
Combo box month.
Why?
Edit
This is
blank.
probably for the year. For what year? I don't know. I cannot tell you.
Combo box 020
So
collapsed.
again, this is an example of a web form that doesn't have any programmatic associations between the label and the input field, making it very difficult for a non-sighted person to use.
PowerPoint. Make your forms.
So those are the 5
next?
keys. It's all about image descriptions, using correct HTML semantics, making sure that you have keyboard accessible content, making sure that you have
From Jade Lim to
sufficient color contrast, and finally, making sure that your web forms are accessible. What's next? We highly encourage you to explore Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, WCAG 2.1. Now, it is a well-known fact that once a person sees that Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 for the first time, said person will be shocked and surprised and overwhelmed. Here is what I would like to kindly suggest. Please know that although Web Content Accessibility Guidelines has been made as comprehensive as possible, not all of the principles will apply to your web content. And you can start by exploring one success criteria after the other. There are at level A, level AA, there are 50 plus success criteria. Not all of it will apply to you. Okay, so just use whatever applies and leave out the rest.
Bullet Explore WC.
Use assistive technology. If you really want to, and you have the time, please try to use screen readers. It's a very eye-opening, no pun intended, experience. It is the main screen reader that I'm using right now is called NVDA. It stands for Non-Visual Desktop Access. It is a free and an open source Windows-based screen reader. If you have a Mac, you already have a built-in screen reader, which is called VoiceOver. If you have an Android phone, you already have a built-in screen reader called TalkBack. If you have an iPhone, you already have a built-in screen reader called VoiceOver as well.
Bullet Perform Quick Tests.
Perform quick tests. So we've been talking about unplugging the mouse, making sure all of your interactive elements are accessible. Just unplug the mouse, press the tab key, and find out if you can access all of your links, buttons, radio buttons, and checkboxes. A quick test, you can also perform quick tests such as making sure that your paragraphs are short enough, making sure that there are no scary blocks of information, huge, chunky, beefy blocks of information, making sure that your sentences are shorter, making sure that your words are shorter. Rather than using acquire, just say get. Simpler words like those are very helpful to, especially to people with cognitive disabilities. Plain language, plain English is very, very helpful.
Bullet use checking tools.
Use checking tools. You have, the WebAIM contrast checker. You also have automated checking tools. One of the example would be
Fold G Google.
Let me show you an example.
New tab dash we.ebaim.org wave.htt wave web
wave.webaim.org. This is an automated checking tool which identifies the potential accessibility issues that you may have in your web content. It's using accessibility checking tools is a good supplementary addition to your manual testing. Of course, manual testing is still the best.
PowerPoint slot out September. Explore double use of bullet use checking tool.
Use checking tools.
Web call, email call, phone.
And we're about to wrap up. So again, I would like to thank everybody. Thank you for sharing your time
6:43
with me, with the rest of the Content Strategy Meetup team. We really appreciate you spending time learning about how, as content providers, you can change the lives of so many people. You can share a huge benefit to everybody who use assisted technology, who have disabilities. So I would like to thank you for spending your time with me. I know that as IT professionals here, your time is your most valuable resource. So we deeply appreciate you spending your Wednesday evening with me. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please do reach out to us. I'm an independent contractor for a company called Access Advisors. We're a New Zealand-based accessibility consulting company. We help companies, private companies, and government agencies make sure that their web content is accessible to everybody. So here we have some contact information. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out, we'd love to help you make your web content accessible. So again, thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate you. And I look forward to hearing about your accessible journey and how many lives you will be changing through your accessible content.
Thank you so much, Julius. I've actually got some really good questions that have come through on the chat while you've been presenting.
Yes.
One of them is about tables and how difficult they are for screen readers, but how often they're used, especially for financial services. Are there better alternatives for table content?
Especially for financial services, the main challenge there is there are international policies that require a specific structure when it comes to financial services. But the key things that we would recommend is to make sure that your table headers are tagged properly. If you really need to use tables, especially the complex tables, make sure that your table headers are tagged properly, tagged with the TH tag. This enables screen readers to speak the column headers as the person who's using the screen readers navigating through the content, which is very helpful because when you're navigating to a specific cell and you are blind, you won't be able to visually quickly see what the column header is. So that's the first important thing. If you have complex tables and if it's at all possible, consider breaking the complex tables down into smaller, simpler tables. That is also one of the things that you can do. Another thing to remember when it comes to tables, when you have tables that currently are used to as used in terms of layout, please avoid doing so. Tables are used for data, not for layout. So if you find that you're using tables to move things around and create separation from between two content, you can actually use CSS to do that rather than using tables to perform that task. I do hope that answers your question. If you have any other questions.
That's a really good point, especially the last one, because I'm just working on content at the moment that's using tables to get people to navigate to content, not data. So that's really interesting. Another quick question. We've had a lot of people having to leave and they've all said thank you so much. They, comments like the, time well spent, one of the best presentations they've been to in a long time. And so many questions coming through. So if we can't get through them all tonight, are people able to email you directly on info at this email address that you provided on the screen here? And
yes, please.
Fantastic.
You can actually replace info@accessadvisors.nz. You can actually replace it with Julius Serrano at accessadvisors.nz. I hope there's a way for us to enter that. Julius Serrano, Serrano.
We can include it in the email
Yes,
that we
please.
send out.
Awesome.
There was one further back. In your years of working in accessibility, what is the safe ruling to provide descriptive alt text for the web? Have you noticed a limited pattern or preference?
Wow, excellent question. Best practice is to make sure to limit your content, your alt text to a maximum of 150 characters. As we mentioned, try to leave out the phrase image of, and focus on, if I'm not able to see it, if I'm describing it on the phone to a friend that I know, like, and trust, what would I say about that image?
Okay. There's another question here just following on from that, which is don't use image of. Does the same thing apply to link to or a link to?
Excellent question.
Yeah.
Yes, same thing, because especially when a screen reader focuses on a specific link that has been tagged with the A tag, the screen reader will already be able to tell me that this is a particular link right here.
Okay. Now I'm just scrolling through to see if there's another question. Do we need to include hint or help text in the text field for the screen reader? And what is the hint or help text? What if the hint or help text is something like identity card number? So you're trying to help people know where to get this information from to enter.
Excellent question. If you're using clear labels, such as first name, in specific examples like those, you don't need to put in hint text, because, using first name, last name, phone number will already be sufficient. However, when you're on a registration form and there's a password field for signing up, if sighted people can see a specific text telling them that the password needs to contain minimum of 8 characters and has to contain uppercase and lowercase, alphanumeric, and special characters, if that is visible to sighted people, that also needs to be contained inside the label of the input field. Because if the input field only contains enter your password, and it doesn't contain that particular detail that sighted people can see, screen reader users who are totally blind or any other users of screen reader will not be able to understand, will be able to miss that particular detailed information.
Okay, we've got one last question, which is how do we deal with accessibility in interactive maps?
Wow. Maps, that has always been a hot topic. So at the moment, there's no 100% way to make interactive maps accessible. But, if you have interactive elements inside the map, simple things like making sure that if you have buttons inside your interactive map, making sure that you have text captions for the buttons, keyboard accessibility, making sure that if you have interactive elements inside the map, making sure that you can tab to and access and activate all of the interactive elements. And for non-visual people, the best thing that you can do is, if at all possible, provide a specific textual description, such as a list of details explaining what the maps, what the regions of the maps look like, and if it applies, a list of directions on how to go from point A to point B in a text in a list containing plain text. That would be most helpful to non-visual people.
We've just had one last question come through. Does adding oh gosh, there's more. They're just coming. Are you okay to keep going, or are you tired and need to go have your dinner?
I'm all good. Just checking the time.
Speech mode beeps. Move to speech mode off. Speech mode
It
beeps.
is
Speech 6:53 p.m.
6:53.
Yeah, I have 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Okay, because we'll just ask one more question. And sorry to people who keep asking questions. They're all amazing.
No, that's all
it might
fine.
be a
I
good
truly
idea
appreciate. Thank you to everybody asking your questions. You're awesome. I love you.
So good. Like, they're great questions. So so we've got one here
Peter
about
has left the meeting.
descriptive alt text. Does adding descriptive alt text really enhance the reading experience? As wordsmiths, we're trained to keep content short and to the point. It seems like describing every photograph would just be a distraction from the actual message. But alt text isn't really seen, is it? As much?
Yeah, it's not. It's being so sighted people will not be able to see it.
Yeah.
Instead, if they actually hover over the image, they will be able to see it. Now, I understand the point. If it actually relies, it's a challenging decision point. If you have a lot of images and you feel that these images are there to act as decorations, even if they have people in the content, it's more of a content provider's judgment call, actually. So if you feel that in this particular web page, you already have all of the textual content that provides all of the useful information, then that's the time that you can actually consider all of those images as being decorative. So a question is, if this particular image didn't exist on this page and you have all of those textual information, will I still be able to understand the message, the content, the purpose that this particular web page, this particular post is providing, even without those images? If so, you can actually consider making those images decorative and thus adding a null value for the images.
Great. I think that we've had a really good explanation coming from someone listening about his or her experience with understanding the difference between alt text, photo caption, and photo credit that anybody can read in the chat. It's actually really useful tips. Nice. So we should probably call it a day there so that you can go and get on with the rest of your evening, have something to eat and relax. There's just been so many thank yous. Everybody has had the best time and has gained so much from your presentation. So I just want to say thank you so much. It has been amazing to have you with us. Is there anything, Carly, that you'd like to say, or Kevin?
No, just reiterating what you're saying, Trudy. It's been lovely to have you, Julius, and I've really enjoyed the reality of using a screen reader and seeing all those examples. So it's given me a lot to think about, especially with things like form fields, which is something that I have help design as part of my job. So lots of things to consider there.
Yeah, ditto, Julius. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a great experience.
Wonderful. Thank you.